Hello friends. So in the last few videos we created a frame windows, then we added button and checkboxes, then we also added radio buttons. So in all the previous videos we used a FlowLayout Manager. Now we will learn about how this FlowLayout Manager arranges the controls. In this video we will create 5 buttons. Then we will add it to the frame window, and FlowLayout Manager manages the controls inside this frame window. Then we will study the behavior of the FlowLayout Manager. So this video also uses the frame window, which was created in the very first video in this playlist. You can refer that video, then you can come back here. AWT Layout Managers. In Java, AWT Layout Managers takes the responsibility of managing the controls. In the previous examples, we added the controls to the frame window. The AWT frame is a container, and the components like labels, text field, and checkboxes are the controls. So these controls are actually called as components. Inside a container, we can place the components. Or we can say like this, a container can hold many components. How to lay out the controls inside the container is managed by the Layout Manager. So a container can hold many components, or also called controls. But how these controls are laid out inside this container is decided by the Layout Manager. In our past examples, we used FlowLayout Manager using the setLayout method. So this setLayout method is a method of a container. In our case, the method is called from the frame window. So to this setLayout method, we previously given the FlowLayout Manager, and when we added the control, the FlowLayout Manager managed those controls, and it decides how to organize those controls inside the frame window. The method of the container accepts a layout manager as parameter. So the method here is setLayout. So the setLayout method accepts a layout manager as a parameter. So previously we passed FlowLayout Manager. So there are other layout managers also. That means you can pass any layout manager to frame windows function setLayout. Alright, here in this video we are going to learn about FlowLayout Manager. Even though we previously used FlowLayout Manager, in this video we will dig deep inside this layout manager. That means the FlowLayout Manager. The FlowLayout Manager arranges the control horizontally. Then it lays out that in vertical fashion. That means first it will arrange the control horizontally, and when there is no space, then it moves the control to the next line. That means first it arranges the control horizontally, after that it arranges that in a vertical fashion. Then the layout continues on the second line. Below is the 3 version of the constructors for this FlowLayout Manager. The first version is a constructor with no parameter. That means we call this as a default FlowLayout. The default constructor. Here the controls moves from left to right horizontally, and when the control is filled in the very first line, then the flow happens from the second line. The second version takes an integer alignment. So just like a word processor, you can say how you want to align the control, whether it is aligned centrally or it is left justified or right justified. So those you can specify using this alignment parameter. So it's a constant. When we are going to the example part at that time, we will know how to use this align. So during the construction time itself, you can pass the alignment constant, or we can use the specific method, the set method, to set an alignment to the FlowLayout Manager. The third version takes alignment parameter. Also, it takes horizontal and vertical gap. So when the controls are arranged horizontally as well as vertically, or we can say when the controls are occupying the container in 3 or more rows, the 2 or more rows, then the horizontal and vertical gap will be employed to say what is the gap between the controls which is laid out inside the container. Alright, so that's the background of FlowLayout Manager. Let us talk about the example which we are going to create here in this video demo. So this is our frame window. Here we are going to lay out 5 buttons using the FlowLayout Manager. So after placing these 5 buttons, we will study how they get arranged by the FlowLayout Manager. After creating the window, we will also resize the form when we go to the Eclipse demo. And while resizing the form, you can clearly see how the FlowLayout Manager is laying out these buttons. In the example, first we will create 5 buttons. The labels are ranging from 1, 2, 3 and continues still 5. So there are 5 button instances. Then we are making call to set layout. So the set layout is a method of frame window. That means a container. We will learn more about that later. For now, you can see that set layout is a method of frame window, or a method derived to the frame window. So to this method, we are passing a layout manager. Here we are passing a FlowLayout Manager. So the frame window dedicates the functionality of arranging or organizing the controls in it by making use of this layout manager. So frame window dedicates the job to a worker layout manager. Here the FlowLayout Manager takes care of arranging the controls. So then after setting the FlowLayout Manager, we are adding the 5 controls to the frame window. Alright, now let us go to Eclipse and we will study how the controls are arranged by the FlowLayout Manager. So here is our existing code. So this is a frame window which extends from frame. After setting the title to the frame, so the title here is FlowLayout Demo. That's the title we are setting to the frame. Then we set the size and location. Then we add listener. So all this stuff are explained in the very first video. So next here we are creating 5 buttons and we are having 5 references. So after this, we will set a layout manager for our frame window. So we make a call to set layout, then we are passing the layout manager here. So it's the layout manager. The flow layout manager is a kind of a layout manager, so we are passing that. Next, we add 5 buttons to our frame window. Now it's time to run the code. So if you see here, by default, the buttons are arranged from left to right. That's the first thing you have to note. Then, by default, button 0, 1 is selected, or it is in focus. You can see that through a border, and if I hit a space bar, the button 1 will get clicked. Alright, here our goal is not about the focus, but here our goal is how the controls are laid out. So by default, the alignment is center. That's why you see a gap in the left here as well as in the right here. That means all the 5 buttons are laid out from this central position. Now we will resize, and you can see how the button will get rearranged. If you see, when there is no room in the very first line, the button automatically moves to the next line, and when the button moves to the next line, it occupies the central position. So that's how the flow layout manager arranges the control. So the default alignment here is center. And now if I move further towards left, button 4 will move to the next line. Now if you see, at very first line, if I move further, there is no room for button 3. But when FlowLayout Manager moves the button 3 to next line, it realizes that there is no room in second line also. So what happens? We will get 3 rows. That means button 3 and button 4 will be in the second line, and button 5 moves to the third row. And if I move further, all buttons are laid out vertically. Alright, let me close the frame window and we will continue. I hope now you have the idea of how FlowLayout Manager is arranging the controls inside the frame window, which is a container. Now we will change the FlowLayout alignment. So here, if you look at the second line, so previously we used the set layout method and we passed the flow layout directly to that method. Here we actually created a flow layout and we are holding a reference to that. The reference name is a flow manager. Next, we are making call to the set alignment function of this flow layout manager. Then to this method, we are sending the constant flow layout.left. Then we are using the set layout method and we are handing over the flow layout manager. So now when a flow layout manager is managing the controls, it lays out the control from left to right. So in the previous Eclipse demo, you saw that controls are laid out from central location, right? Now, when we use the alignment as left, the controls are aligned towards left. and if we use right, the controls are aligned towards right. So here we are creating a flow layout manager. After that, we are setting a gap. So the default gap is 5 pixels. This time we are setting 10 pixels for horizontal as well as vertical gap. So now when we run the application or when we run the demo, the buttons will be laid out like this, and you can see the horizontal gap and vertical gap of 10 pixels. The horizontal gap here is, for example, the gap between button 01 and button 02 and button 03 and button 04. So that's the horizontal gap. And vertical gap you can see between button 1 and button 3 and button 2 and button 4. So here in the above code snippet we set equal size as a horizontal and vertical gap, that means 10 pixel, but you can actually set a different size also. I mean, the horizontal and vertical gaps need not to be equal. So here is one more screenshot. Here we set the pixel as 20 for horizontal and vertical gap. So you can see the difference how it works. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.